coming. This is our first event this semester.
Okay, so I've been asked to come and talk a little bit, and I don't really have a script. I don't have, what can I say, a presentation, a screen, anything of that sort. But I have a very interesting story. I think it's interesting. I've had a fun life. I hope my life is not ending anytime soon, but I've had a great life so far, and I've done a lot of really cool things along the way. And I just thought, hey, I had an opportunity to come in. I was in Thailand. I actually had a big meeting with DPT this morning, so I had a work meeting. That's why I'm on. And I thought, hey, I have some time, and she asked me to come and speak to you guys. And I guess one of the most interesting things is I've actually started a really interesting company that's been going on for about 6 years now. And it's a startup, you might say, but it's not a startup in apps or building a new software or kind of service. It's actually a startup to build a giant industrial plant. So these are these giant plants that are typically built by very large companies, and I'm trying to go in there and build the same size plant, but at 1/10 the cost and 1/10 the systems, and trying to do it very different. So it's a startup in the big industrial space. So what it does, just kind of talk a little bit about that. So the company is called Texas LNG, and LNG stands for liquefied natural gas. And liquefied natural gas is natural gas that, so okay, fine. Do we all know what natural gas is? What is natural gas? Do we know anything about gas? What do we know about gas? Does anyone know anything about gas? We don't know much about gas. Okay, how do we cook in the kitchen? You put on a little stove, right? And there's gas comes out. Where does that gas come from? Where do they come from? Come on. Where does it come from? Where does that product actually get produced? It comes from the ground, right? We have to explore. We have to explore in the oceans or under the ground. We use a lot of technology to find reservoirs of gas in the ground. Oil and gas come out of the ground, right? So they come out of the ground. We take the oil and petrol to put in your cars. But the gas then gets piped and it goes into your house and the kitchens and the restaurants and hotels, and that's how you cook with it. And also in cold climates, it's how you heat with it. And it's also how Thailand makes a lot of its power. You generate power by burning gas. Okay, so I didn't really come here to talk about natural gas, but it's important to understand. So that's how natural gas is typically used, but you can only go so far as you can make a pipeline. So if I'm producing natural gas in America, and I want to bring it to Thailand, but Thailand doesn't have enough natural gas for its own people, I cannot build a pipeline through the Pacific Ocean. Right? That's tens and tens of thousands of kilometers. So the only other way to move this gas from America to here is by making it very, very cold, so it becomes liquid. Remember, gas, if you remember, your ice is solid. If you melt ice, it becomes water, liquid. And then if you heat the water, it becomes steam, gas. So I'm taking the gas and trying to make a liquid out of it, trying to make it really, really cold. So I take the gas that you see in your kitchen and I put it to minus 160 degrees with a giant, giant fridge. It drops in size 600 times. I put it on a ship, like a giant thermos. The ship comes to southern Thailand. It gets piped out of the ship, and then it warms up because it's hot in Thailand, and then it goes into the gas and it comes to your house. So that's how you move gas from one place to the other. So I'm building a plant in South Texas in US to move gas from there to Thailand and to China and to the other places. So it's a giant, giant plant. Anyway, long story is these plants are typically built by the Shells, the Chevrons, the giant companies. And I am trying to do it as a startup. And that's what makes it really, really interesting, because it's theoretically cannot be done. But we're still trying and we're still at it. So it's been a lot of fun. I raised a lot of money from investors along the way. I spent a lot of money. I keep on raising more money, and hopefully we can, I spend most of the money on government permits and studies and engineering. So then I can know what I'm going to build. And hopefully next year I'm going to raise about $3.5 billion with B. Billion US dollars. So that's a huge sum of money, and hopefully build this plant. And it'll take 4 years to build a plant, and then we'll have that. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about kind of some things along the way that are interesting. So, lessons kind of thing. So I put 3 words up here that I think are important. It's knowledge, relationships, and experience. I think those are really the keys to doing anything really interesting in life. Those are the 3 things you really want. Knowledge, relationship, and experience. What do you think is the least important out of those 3? Out of those 3 words, which one can you do without? No. I think without knowledge, you ain't got anything.
If you have experience, then you ultimately sometimes acquire knowledge.
That's a good point. But that is absolutely right. But without the basic knowledge, it's hard to even get to that point of getting the experience. No one's going to hire you without some knowledge. You walk into a job and you say, well, I want to be an engineer, but actually you don't even know how to speak English, for instance, and the company works in English, and that, well, then you don't have the knowledge to even start to learn on the job. But you're right. A lot of jobs, and I would argue, most people would say that the knowledge you learn in school is only a tip of the iceberg. You actually don't use a lot of that in real life. But out of the 3, I would say the least important is experience. You've heard the term fake it until you make it? Have you heard that? There's a lot to be said for that, actually. Because it's all about how you kind of go about using the 2 things that you do have. If you have knowledge, you get your foot in the door. Right? That's the key. You gotta get your foot in the door. You won't even get, after you finish it from ICS, if you don't have basic knowledge, you don't do basic in school, your tests or your scores, you won't even get into the university. Right? Or a decent university. And then without that university piece of paper, it's really hard to get your foot in the door. Unless it's your daddy's company, then it's a different story. But let's assume it's not your daddy's company and you get your door. You do that. But really, experience is something that, hey, if someone says, can you do this? You should say, yes, I can do this. Have you really done it? Well, if you have enough of a basic knowledge, you could probably fake it until you make it. So, I think, I had never started a company before. But I cannot go in front of all these bankers in New York and say, hey, give me tens of millions of dollars, but I've never done this before. I'm not going to lie that I've done it, but I don't really have to talk about the fact I've never done it. You kind of fake it. Right? So I think there's a lot to be said for that. So, but really, the key is really relationships. You don't get very far in life until you have relationships. I'm talking about not boy versus girl and that kind of thing. I'm talking about professional relationships that are absolutely important. So right now you're in high school, you're like thinking, relationships, whatever. But the kind of people you meet now potentially could be friends you'll have for a long time. I mean, Joanna's dad, I've known him since we were 6th grade together. We keep in touch, we see each other regularly, etc., etc. So that's important. But really the next phase of things, when you go to college, that's when you start meeting really interesting types of people. A very diverse group of people. And what you have to then really is build up, while you're meeting these people, is to build up your relationship skills. Because how you act towards those strangers, see, right now you're with people you've grown up with, you've known for a long time, you walk into a classroom, you have 3 friends, you meet 5 other friends, 2 or 3 friends, the next thing you know, everybody's kind of cool. When you go into college, you may know no one. And most of the people may know no one as well. But how do you then kind of bridge that, build the right kind of relationship? But the kind of people you will meet in college are typically the kind of people you will also meet when you go to your first job. And the thing that recruiters will tell you again and again, the key thing that they really are looking for in new employees, apart from the basic knowledge, is the ability to work in teams, is the ability to work with people. So if you're kind of a jerk when you get to college, and you act like a kind of a jerk, well then you're going to be attracted to those kind of people. You'll never learn not to be a jerk. And then when you get to your first job, suddenly you're a jerk in your first job, and now you're not going anywhere. Right? So, relationships are actually the key, and I think the way you build relationships is to build trust with people. Right? So I'm just telling you things that are important to me. So much of what has come along the way is people I've met along the way. I have a room. You got to work on those relationships. You got to look at everybody you meet along the way as how can I help them? Because if I can help them in some way, then maybe I can build trust. And if I ever need help down the road, at least I have, they might come and help me as well. So the worst you can do is get to college and just meet your 3 friends, hang out with them. 4 years later, you get out of college and you only keep touch with those 3 friends. Because those are the kind of people, because you never know. You know, you find out one of your friends now works for, McKinsey, and you work for somebody else, and 3 years later, the job that, McKinsey is posting, you call up your buddy, he can get you in the door. So, it's all about relationship, it's also about how you deal with people, because if you deal with people in a way that they can trust you, without really expecting you to have anything back from them in return, they're going to then want to deal with you on a long-term basis. So it sounds like I'm preaching, it's the facts of life, to be honest. And there is no shortage of jerks in the world. You will meet them every step along the way. And those are the people, yes, once in a while, if a jerk is brilliant, he might actually do amazing things, but most of the time in life, they don't get very far. Or at least I don't think they have a good time getting where they are. So really the key is that. But so let's just say you've got your good relationships, you went to college, you built up a lot of good relationships, and now you get an opportunity to get your first job. Right? That's great. Fantastic. My best advice I give you is getting out of college, work for the biggest company you can. Why? Because the biggest company will give you the best exposure stuff. You want to take that first few years out of college and learn everything you can. Right? So, if you have a choice with a company that has 100 people or a company that has 10,000 people, vote for the 10,000 people. It may not be, don't ever worry about money, don't ever worry about titles, worry about what are you going to get to learn from this experience. Get into an industry that you have to enjoy. If you don't enjoy it, you're going to suck at it. And if you suck at it, then you're not going to go very far. You have to have fun. If you get into something and you're not having fun, get out and find something else to have fun. Don't ever do something that you're not having fun. So if you have a job and somebody says, hey, I can offer you a job in this car company, or I can offer you a job in this hotel company. If hotels don't excite you and cars do, don't even look at the salary, just go for the car company. But that's where you're going to do good. I'm sure you see that. The classes that you enjoy are the classes that you probably do better. You can force yourself to do good classes you don't enjoy, but that's not something you want to do for the next 30 years. You can do that for one semester. You're not stuck in a career and say, oh my God, what did I do? Wake up 7 years later and say, I really didn't enjoy what industry I was in. So I have known I want to be in the oil and gas industry since I was 13 years old, and Rocky knows this, astronauts. And that's it. That's all I love. I love this industry. This is great. It excites the hell out of you. So you have to do what you enjoy. So the key is, get into a company that you can then learn the most. Now for those of you who have an entrepreneurial streak, like I do, the key is really, we all want to be entrepreneurs. We all see these great videos. These guys dropped out of college, with a hoodie, and next thing you know, they're worth $10 billion. Well, that doesn't happen. For every one of those, there's 10,000 people that failed and got nowhere. So, not an advice I would recommend. Go through, you start something, you got to finish it. Don't ever drop out. It's a stupid thing to do, because you always regret it. And 3 years of your life, 4 years, is not going to make any difference down the road. Even if somebody comes here, I got the most brilliant idea for the next Facebook, don't do it, finish college first, because you need that piece of paper. Whether you use that knowledge or not, it's not that important. That's how people grade you. It's like being in the military. People say, what rank are you? They didn't say, how many people did you have to shoot down in the airplane to get that rank. It's a rank. We give you that and you move on from that. So don't worry about it, but you need that piece of paper, right? Just like you need a high school degree, you need a piece of paper, etc., etc. So get that piece of paper, get the big job you want in the industry you're interested in. So learn everything you can. Never say no to an opportunity. Don't ever worry about your salary. Don't ever worry about your title. Don't ever worry about how much your neighbor makes. That's all not important. What you want to worry about is how much can you suck up like a sponge and take it all in. Only when you've taken it all in can you then recognize opportunities. So you see, I'm trying to get to you. See, I'm an entrepreneur. That's all I can think of. I'm always looking at how can this be improved? How can I do something that is more interesting? How can I be disruptive? How do I identify things that are disruptive? Understand? Everyone understands the word disruptive, right? Something that's going to change the way things are done. And you can only do that once you know how things are done. So don't be arrogant enough to walk in and say, hey, I have 2 years of college, I know how things are done, I know how things are wrong, I'm going to change it. That's not going to work. You know, you don't know anything at this point. You're just getting started. So you want to take your time, learn all you can, right? Easy enough. And then you start, while you're there, while someone is paying your bills, start identifying interesting opportunities. Oh, look, I work in the car business. There's, you know, the way they refuel cars is not very efficient. Maybe, you know, electrical cars are coming and people aren't charging them up everywhere. Whatever the opportunity you find, take your time kind of working it. But what happens to most people is they start off their job, they're 25 years old, they got a great job, and now they're making pretty good money, and guess what they do? They live beyond their means, right? They live it up. It's always very tempting to live it up. It's the first time you get paychecks. Oh, I'm going to buy that brand new flashy car, I'm going to buy that brand new fashion suit. I'm going to do all this fun stuff. Because, hey, Joe has it, I want it too. Alright? That's not how you're ever going to be able to, how can I say, have the right mindset to start your own business. When you start your own business, you've got to think completely different. When you start your own business, things are going to take a lot longer than you think. Things are going to be a lot more struggle. You're going to have no money for a long, long time. Right? You might have money for a while, then you get no money for a long time. And you get paid last when you start your own business. Right? That's life. So the way to kind of be prepared for that is while you're working for this big company, live really cheap. Don't sacrifice your life. I mean, live it up, have a good time, but don't have to keep up with everybody else because you're saving for that time when you can do something on your own. You know, when I started the business 6 years now, I've been at it. Now in the 6 years, I got salary for a year and a half. And then it stopped. And now I start again, got ran out of money, taking new investors. I got more money. I'm hoping, you know, you just kind of have to, if I did not have the money saved up, or I did not, you know, if I lived in a fancy house and drove a fancy car, I can't afford to do any of this stuff. But you're broke. Then you go begging back to your company saying, hey, give me a job back. So, it's very simple, really. You know, you got to think of what you want. You got to have a big long-term plan. Like, I don't believe in having everything written out. 5-year plan to this. I believe in having a map. I want to get to the top of the mountain and have a compass. I don't have a map, I have a compass. I just need to kind of head in that direction. I might take a few wrong turns along the way. I might fall in the stream. I might get lost. I might, you know, go backwards. But generally, I need to head in that direction. That's all I need to know. So while you're heading in that direction, you really want to be saving up for that rainy day, right? So, live within your means, learn all you can, look around, find out what's interesting, what's disruptive. You know, in my lifetime, but in the last 5 years, you know, there's so many new industries that I just came out of where no industry was before. That's what is really amazing. The pace of change, things are happening so fast. You know, 5 years ago, someone said that I could go to Bangkok and, you know, go to my phone and use Grab and get someone to pick me up and take me somewhere. It's unheard of. I mean, I couldn't imagine that, you know, as a possibility of something that can exist. You know? And so the pace of change that you guys are going to see is going to be massive. But, you know, the most interesting opportunities are places where disruption hasn't happened yet. That's where you identify interesting. Why is Tesla so successful? Because what did Elon do? He did really well. He identified cars were inefficient, but he also identified that the rest of the world, the new people, your kids, you guys all want to be cleaner. You want to have greener, you know, climate change is important. Well, if you tell Ford and GM climate change is important, they're like, no, it isn't. They won't put it away. So they didn't want to make electric cars. He identified two things happening at the same time. He identified the young people want that climate change is real and young people want to change, and he identified that cars are not efficient the way they make. And he put those two together, and that's why it is what it is. Right? And, you know, it's not like GM doesn't have the technology, or Ford, or, you know, or whatever, you know, Toyota. These guys could do the same. They just choose not to, because it was going to affect their status quo. You know, when big companies, this is what you learn in the big companies. Big companies, you know, are so used to doing things a certain way. Now that's how they became successful. That's what they tell you. Don't rock the boat, because hey, if you rock the boat might sink. But at the same time, what they don't because they're so afraid of anybody rocking the boat, they don't see the big wave that's coming far away. And by the time they realize the wave is coming, it's almost too late. So, how do you identify that? You got to be in the boat. You got to be watching the boat. You can't rock it because your boss will get mad at you, but you got to look for opportunities. And when you think you've found an interesting opportunity and you're ready to rock it, that's when you jump off the boat. Because that boat's going to sink. And you want to be on your own, doing something interesting that then can help that boat sink. And what is great is really that you guys in the young generation, you can do these things, but the old generation are people like me who are almost, how can I say, we don't want to see the changes. We don't want to see the things that are changing. So we've had a comfortable life, and we want to do what we're doing. I work in a plant. I do this. I do this. Hey, life goes on. Life is pretty good. Why should I change? But what we don't realize, and we are realizing, that change comes very, very quickly. It's not gradual anymore. It comes very, very quickly. So that's where the disruption comes in. You guys can help identify that, but you can't do that until you've been in the industry long enough. So find an industry you like, only then you can really identify the disruption. So that's what I did. I worked for a big company for many years. I got lots of degrees. I never stopped learning. So I won't tell you how many degrees I have, but I'm doing my PhD right now. I'm 53 years old. I'm working on my PhD. This will be my 6th degree, and I'm hoping to get the PhD done this year. And it's in a completely different subject, and all my degrees are completely different. Because I just cannot stop learning about different things. I'm more interested in getting this wide knowledge about stuff than just digging deep. And as I do my own business, I realize, I really need more law. So let me go do a degree in law. I really need more of this. Let me go do a degree in this, And so the lifetime of learning has to be there as well. Whether you're learning formally in a university or online, or you're just reading a lot, or you're just curious. What I think is, I have a 14-year-old son. What I think we fight all the time because I just don't see the curiosity that he has. Because in today's, you guys just click a button and everything is right there for you. You don't have to dig. When we were like in our age, when I was your age, when we were your age, when we didn't know something, we had to go and dig to find out what it was. For you guys, and that digging was part of the experience. The journey was almost part of the getting there. Or let's go to the library, or let's go ask someone, or let's go the encyclopedia, whatever it is, if you want to learn something. Today, I just go to my Google home device, say, hey Google, what does this mean? And the damn thing will tell me, so we don't have that, it's easy not to be that curiosity, but only when you're curious will you have the lifetime of learning. Only when you have the lifetime of learning can you then know enough about being an entrepreneur. So one of the last things I would say is, if someone had asked me, what is the single biggest kind of a learning as an entrepreneur, I would say, sometimes it's best not to know too much. I just told you all this time about knowledge is power, but if you know too much, you may never do what you need to do. If I knew everything, if I knew 5 years ago all the stuff that I had to go through to get to where I am today, I may never have jumped into the swimming pool in the first place 5 years ago. Sometimes it's just best to know a little bit, be a bit ignorant, get blindsided, learn along the way, and then learn the next thing. You can never be overly prepared, but I'm not saying you don't have the knowledge, but sometimes don't let too much knowledge scare you as well. So that's all my prepared statements. You can see I really prepared as well. No, I didn't. I just kind of came, I just rattled off, but here, look, I'm happy to answer any kind of questions or anything, what do you guys think about? I'm curious to know what you guys think about being entrepreneurs and how do you take businesses and where do you think opportunities